Okay, here we go. God Laughs at Dirty Jokes. Book reading video number 5. Resuming with chapter 9, which is called Devil Says Howdy. You definitely will not know what's going on unless you're up to speed with the last video and the other ones too, because this picks right up where chapter 8 left off. Okay, so here we go. Speaking of the downside of psychic ability, of the downside, a few years ago, while lying in bed at the end of the day, a powerful, unfriendly visitor was eager to converse with me. There was a more intense energy in my forehead. I usually dismiss negative visitors quickly to avoid potential manipulation, but there was something different about this one. Perhaps I could gain insight about the enemy to counter it better in the future. I cautiously asked questions, though I felt its restrained, dark weight. As we communicated, I realized, despite my faults, I'd like to help people understand themselves better and feel more fulfilled if I'm able. I want to spread the good word and positive feeling, but not like a missionary. Being preachy is a turnoff and can have the opposite effect. If more people were connected and felt free, we could share that openness. Is that too idealistic? My dark visitor revealed wild things about the nature of evil. The primary goal of dark forces is to increase and further spread suffering, which pains God's creations and God. The unfriendlies want to extend sickness, make things difficult for decent people, and recruit more defeatists. They like to dominate creation with despair, but they don't want to end life. They'd prefer to pull you down to their level and make you believe that the logical point of view is cynicism and the only reality suffering. This is lazy garbage philosophy. As the universe is God's creation, he, she, it could pull the plug on this experiment any time. Dark forces want to provoke God, but only to a point, because if God decided there was too much suffering to allow life to continue, it would also mean the end of the unfriendlies. Terminating the universe would be an admission of defeat by God that they'd enjoy, but only fleetingly, because they too would be obliterated. Unfriendlies and tricksters present themselves as tough and powerful so that others will buy what they're selling, but in truth they're cowardly and fearful. Remind you of anyone in the White House recently? Yeah, okay, enough of that. This is their main weakness, and it can be exploited. They're unhappy, jealous, and manipulative, but mask their insecurities with aggression and hatred. People are like this as well. The more antagonistic they appear, the weaker they actually are. When you embrace these feelings, you align with them and add more negative weight to the world. Honesty and good intentions are difficult for them to counter because these energies are pure and incorruptible. Unfriendlies are also weak in that their closed-mindedness limits imagination. They expend most of their energy looking for flaws in perfection. It blinds them to inspiration, beauty, and creative ideas. They spend so much time judging life instead of experiencing it that they become dim-witted and slow. The brilliant run circles around them. I don't believe suffering is the truth of life, as hard as it can sometimes be. I believe in love. It means we're strong enough to be open. Unconditional love may be rare, but it's very powerful. If you think love is for suckers, one day you may change your mind. I felt that way until I realized I had all the love I'll ever need in my family, from my family. My well-being is rooted in it, even if I still make jokes about how romance and marriage are for saps. Pure love's a raging joy that wants to explode from your chest. It's available to all, even if you've had a life chock full of rejection, and most of us have had at least some. When you operate from hope, love emanates from you and resonates inside, which makes it as good for you as whatever you're directing it towards. No love is ever wasted, even if it doesn't always land on target or isn't fully requited. More love in the world increases the overall supply, and the world will always need more because there's much suffering. The tricksters have another serious weakness. They have no real allies, even among themselves. Their entire network and philosophy is based upon deceit, and I suspect they squabble among themselves and leverage each other politically for greater status and perceived power. The entire foundation of their power is darkness, and the higher up, or rather lower down, that chain you go, the more compromised and lost you become. Evil is the ultimate nightmare bureaucracy. Spirit is wild and free. Just adjust my pop screen a little. A life of darkness is competitive and rife with backstabbing. The entire pursuit seems damn awful and lonely. Some unfriendlies must eventually choose to switch sides and come over to the light. The hopeful and decent are always glad to have more allies. Ultimately, both spirits and humans get to choose a side. Will we be loving in the face of savagery, or will we be weak, or even worse, hateful? Decency and courage are rare enough that these qualities have their own mystique and intrinsic value. Generous people are like gold or diamonds, precious by their scarcity, their true nature unchallengeable. The popular depictions of demons and devils as charming seducers or rebels against oppressive sanctity are probably incorrect. My experiences have convinced me that there's little to no humor to them at all, only bitterness and anger. They sometimes try to act carefree, but it's a facade and they crave attention. The truly rebellious spirit is open, generous, irreverent, friendly, thoughtful, unselfish, empathetic, and maybe even a bit mischievous in a playful way. All right, I'm not so sure about that one anymore, but surely God is cool with us enjoying life, having some drinks and getting stupid, waving your panties running down the street, making dumb jokes, whooping it up, singing, dancing, making hot monkey love, and having a great time so long as nobody gets hurt. Being loving doesn't mean you must transform into a saintly weirdo and give up your spark. You can remain the regular weirdo you've always been, just more tuned in. Okay, so that's the end of chapter 9. Get a little coffee here. I realize I got to switch up my mugs now so that you get a sense of my collection. I really love mugs. I love it's silly because I'm not really that sentimental about collecting things from places or souvenirs, but I mean, obviously this is not a souvenir mug, but the couple of souvenir mugs I have, or like when people give me mugs with photographs on them, I love it because then you have your coffee and you think of the people that you were with or who you got the mug from. Okay. Now, admittedly, the book gets very autobiographical now. And with some hindsight, I can see that what I really allowed myself to do is use the psychic experiences that I've had, that my family's had, is a bit of a pretext or pretext to sort of tell my own life story too. So yes, there's a little bit of that ego in there too, of course. But I realized after I finished it that I really like to read people's stories, like when they really give you the inside version of their lives, because it sparks your own feelings about your own life. It gets you to reflect on your own really true experiences, warts and all. So I figured, yeah, there's an ego aspect, but I'm just going to let it ride. And if this part appeals to you less than like the more specifically psychic stuff, no problem. You want to skip ahead, no problem. But also this background info kind of helps you to understand the relationship with my mom and my brother better. And then at the end, when more of the psychic stuff kicks in related to them, it all comes a little more full circle. So that's my excuse, okay? All right. So chapter 10 is called Growing Up Happy. It's a long chapter. I'll see how quickly I can squeeze it in so the video is not too long. Okay. Chapter 10, Growing Up Happy. I loved Mom's 1970s vacuum. It was soft pea green with white trim. The body was thick, rectangular plastic with a long, shiny metal tube. Like most machines of the era, it was awkward to wield and weighty, and probably worked better because it didn't shake itself to pieces out of the box. My reconditioned vintage Whirlpool washing machine will likely outlive me, which really is true. I've had that thing since like 2004, and it was refurbished in 2004. Anyway, it still works. We had wall-to-wall carpeting in our cozy home on East Stenzel Street in North Tonawanda. The vacuum had a 2-inch circular vent to expel excess heat. As a child of 5 or 6, I followed Mom in the vacuum room to room, focused on the vent, crawling to position myself next to the warm exhaust, which would be brief since she'd only stay in one area for so long. That may be why I connect space heaters, fans, and other motorized blowers like air conditioners with childhood comfort and security. Is this common? As I have the heater fan running on me right now. You can probably hear it. The warmth relates to another sensation I used to get intermittently when I was a kid and teen, though less often now. When an adult would pay special attention and take interest in something I enjoyed, like my comic book collection, I'd get a pleasant tingling sensation that traveled up the back of my neck, spread into my shoulders, and around my head like I had my hand on a science museum electrode. Not dissimilar from goosebumps, but warm and comforting. A child instinctively knows when an adult has genuine interest. When it came, I'd try to live in that moment as long as possible, though it would usually only last a minute or two. I wanted to stay where everything felt perfect. Every once in a while, I'd get a hint of that old feeling when the cleaning woman takes a few minutes to vacuum my office at work, which makes me smile. Sorry. All right. Last week, I read that other people get this sensation too, and it's come to be known as autonomous sensory meridian response. I thought I was the only one who experienced it. According to Ohio State University professor David Huron, ASMR is strongly related to the perception of non-threat and altruistic intention. Now, here's a great synchronicity. I had forgotten about ASMR being in this book because I wrote this book, finished it in 2014. And last night I was flipping around YouTube on my television set, and I came across a video about ASMR. And it was almost like a foreign concept to me because I hadn't thought about it in so long. So, you know what I mean? You feel the echo of life, the deja vus, the synchronicities, because they're reminders that all of your life is kind of tied together and that these things are meaningful. I think that's really the message of it. So I hope you don't mind. I'm going to read that paragraph one more time and then continue on from there. But I'm kind of blown away that I saw the ASMR video last night after I'd really kind of forgotten about the whole concept for a while. So strange. Interesting. All right, anyway, so the paragraph was, last week I read that other people get this sensation too, and it's come to be known as autonomous sensory meridian response. I thought I was the only one who experienced it. According to Ohio State University professor David Huron, ASMR is strongly related to the perception of non-threat and altruistic intention. Absolutely. Mom thought the tingling sensation was cool, but after their divorce, I made the mistake of trying to explain it to my father and his young girlfriend from the back seat of the car during an evening ride to his apartment. My deeply felt experience and my vulnerability in sharing it was greeted by Dad's chippy with a vulgar joke about the tingling sensations I'd eventually experienced with women, and some form of half laughter at her joke mixed with a non-response from my father. I still love my dad, though. I never shared anything like that with them again, though my brother and I drop hints on Dad that the spirit world is real. He usually doesn't know how to respond, even though he goes to church and thought the Passion of the Christ was profound. I never saw it. There's still hope, though. At his 2013 Father's Day dinner, we ended up discussing my book, and when I looked in his eyes after an hour detailing an abundance of inexplicable events, I saw the teary glimmer of recognition and possibility. The evening ended with a light rain, followed by a gorgeous sun halo outside, which everyone at the restaurant gazed at in wonder. Steve told me later that the last time he'd seen a full rainbow was after he and Mom had been discussing our recently deceased cousin Gigi, who I'll tell you more about later. Yeah, that was quite a day. That was a strong day. My father gummed up our brains when we were young and impressionable by taking no position whatsoever with regard to our needs versus those of his young girlfriend. Fortunately, as adults, our relationship has improved, even though communication is sometimes awkward. His heart is in the right place, but he's buried or repressed a lot of his memories and feelings regarding the distance during our upbringing because he feels guilty that he wasn't really there. I believe avoidance can actually cause brain damage over time. It took a long time for me to stop carrying that anger around, but it has dissipated and we show love more openly. I see the ways in which I am selfish and desirous of attention like him, and it's partly why I've avoided marriage and kids, though I wouldn't rule out as I grow and change. Artist types are often selfish anyway, nearly of necessity. We spend endless hours improving our skills and investing in the creative process. If one is a singer, then mental, physical, and vocal health are interrelated. I do vocal exercises every day, even when it's the last thing I feel like doing. I swim and bike to try to maintain my weight, strength, and lung power, especially as I age. We mine ourselves for emotional content and then share it with the world. And speaking of artists, sometimes instead of the people closest to us. It's a bit messed up when you really think about it. All your favorite performers are probably at least partial narcissists who need you, the audience, more than you need them, though they're unlikely to admit it. I've tried to keep myself grounded, but haven't always succeeded. Time and experience have humbled me. I'm closer to serenity. When I was 10, prior to my parents' divorce, we used to take an annual summer vacation at Buckhorn Lake in Ontario. My dad paid me quarters to massage his big, knobby feet. Then I'd run down to the general store to buy comics. I caught many sunfish on the lake. There was a primitive trampoline with a pit beneath it that the kids loved, and then my mother nearly broke her neck on one year. The adults played cards in various cottages in the early evening heat. There was a tiny beach and afternoon games of competition for kids like me, racing from end to end, running like crabs. There was a small cement shuffleboard court halfway down the hill between our cottage and the lake. My mom gave me raw bacon to fish with sometimes, and I ate half the bait. Ate half the bait in quarter stamp-sized servings. Luckily, I never got sick. Being the little ham bone I was then and now, I'd perform each year at the Campfire Talent Show. My act in those days consisted of nearly any joke from the wildly popular first two Steve Martin vinyl comedy records, Let's Get Small and Wild and Crazy Guy. I listened to the records constantly, learning every bit, even the dirty stuff, which my parents would have me do at their parties even though I didn't understand the jokes. Grandpa bought a rubber. What's a rubber? It sounded funny anyway. I somehow knew which jokes were okay for a group of 7-year-olds and which ones you kept for adults. Mom made an arrow through the head, the Steve Martin prop, by bending a coat hanger into shape and affixing a cardboard tip and tail with drawn-in feather ridges. A good prop helps you get into character. The big head at the campfire was when I sang King Tut and did the accompanying choreography, and for the remainder of the week I'd be on call to do it by any kid or adult passing by. It's funny, I'm remembering it vividly. My father gave me an important lesson in humility when, while receiving praise from a parent after my set, I tipped my head back to drink a soda at the same time she spoke. Dad told me to knock it off while this woman was being complimentary. I felt embarrassed and immediately knew I was wrong, and never forgot it, obviously. Parents should crack the whip on kids when hints of arrogance creep in. If you don't check it when they're young, they may imprint the belief that such behavior is acceptable, and then one day you've got Justin Bieber and it's too late. There are enough people with a sense of entitlement walking around as it is given the last 100 years of American prosperity. No one's above anyone else. Kids should learn that young. Okay, then there's a little chapter break. Kind of seeing how long it is. All right. Am I going to make it to the end? Not sure. But I need coffee. I'm sorry. Okay. My mom's an incredible human being. She was raised Catholic and went to an all-girls Catholic school until high school, when she admits she went boy crazy and never opened another book, yet somehow still graduated. That's not what makes her incredible, though this might be. In 1953, when Mom was 7 years old, she attended her sister Joni's wedding reception at Washington Hall in downtown Buffalo. Mom was fascinated by a young disabled girl with a huge smile on her face and a spiritual glow. The girl, Anna, was innocently beautiful. Mom said to herself that she wanted to have a child like that when she got older, and this did occur. My brother Steve was born extremely premature with cerebral palsy, which prevents him from walking, but he's a lovable, hilarious, intelligent, and deeply decent person. I love them with all my heart. I was born first. My mom's second son, Justin, died just after childbirth. Steve was born 3 years after that. Justin is with us all the time. Mom and I have the same small tattoo on our shoulder of a sliver moon representing her and 3 stars for her sons, with 2 on one side and 1 on the other. We got the tattoos together around the time of my original tickling event in 1997. When my parents split, I was 10 and Steve was 4. Mom had the bulk of the job raising us. I don't think she ever saw it as a burden, though it was a huge challenge and cost her emotionally and physically. The love and gratitude I feel is enormous, even though there were conflicts and tough times, as in any family. Excuse me. What I really remember is how much laughter there was. My mom was wisely permissive. To make each other laugh and cringe, we swore around the house more when I was 13 than I ever did after to this day. We made fun of everything and still do. There were no sacred cows and also no pretense. The lack of taboos and abundant tolerance of weird ideas meant I didn't need one personality at home versus outside. I got to be more or less myself all the time. At my urging, Mom took Steve and us to see Cheech and Chong Still Smoking when I was 12. My bro was 6. I'll never forget E.T. the Extra Testicle and the medley of wild animals humping. It was so dumb but funny to a preteen. In high school, she let me dye my hair, dress like a punk, and explore my identity. She and Steve tolerated my horrible singing for years of guitar playing throughout high school as I slowly learned the instrument, while trying to become a deep-tortured singer-poet in the Morrissey mold, even though I sucked. I didn't have the urge to drink or do drugs because I was busy enjoying becoming me. I felt like a caterpillar in development for my future glory and musical flight. For dumb laughs and candy, Steve and I employed a series of chants at the kitchen table, pounding in mock rage like at a political rally. After dinner, we'd yell, "Sweets in general," banging our fists over and over in unison to the words. This was often accompanied by "chocolate in particular," bang, bang, bang. Still makes me smile. Our other running joke was passing the buck after burping. It wasn't me, it was carbonation. This could be shortened to a look of angelic innocence while stating simply carbonation. Carbonation. Nah, I'm not doing it well. We chewed with open mouths to display the chow. I had remarkable patience, stubbornness in this regard. Steve or Mom would turn away, refusing to look at me with my mouth open, but I'd just stare at them unwaveringly and garble, "Look!" through a full mouth of material, perhaps with outstretched tongue, until they caved in. You cannot escape my stupidity. I will stay like this forever if I have to, I thought. Then we laughed until our sides hurt. I haven't changed much. Mom amused us in the living room with her freestyle clogging while I played a country-esque rhythm on guitar. My mom does not know how to clog. Does anyone really know how to clog? Which is, of course, what made it excellent. She'd work herself up pretty good, stomping and shuffling her feet and stubby little legs on the rug at high speeds, like running in place, with an intentionally awkward spastic dance moves. We'd nearly piss ourselves. She'd crack herself up too. Walking in the door after school, any one of us might say to the other, "How'd your day go, Dago?" Many late summer nights were spent in the living room listening to music in my corner and writing. This is my hangout from age 12 to 19. The corner was located at the intersection of our rust-colored couch and chair, positioned perpendicularly against each wall. The gap between the edges of the furniture was a few feet wide, creating a natural box shape in between. I hunched down when writing, doing homework, or listening to music with big Radio Shack headphones. I napped on my back with my feet sticking out between the chair and the couch. The corner centerpiece was an inexpensive but vital multi-unit stereo with twin cassette decks, a receiver, and turntable on top. We put a speaker on each side of the stereo, flush to the walls like the chair and the couch. There was a large pull-chain lamp above the stereo, low to the ground. The wall to the left of the stereo was furry brown grass cloth, and our carpet was an inviting shaggy maroon. All my essential goods were in the corner, around and under the stereo, speakers, and furniture. There was a cutting board that I used for artwork to create fake cassette covers for fictional bands I wanted to be in, which I perforated and cut out of cardstock with an X-Acto knife and ruler. I decorated them with an abundance of multicolored markers. On each side of the stereo were 3-ring binders full of hundreds of lyrics and handwritten chord charts, which is how I still notate songs. There were different notebooks for various musical projects. The larger notebooks held all the raw lyrics. I would pick a lyric from the pile to fit new pieces of music I'd come with. There were cassette tapes everywhere. I had multiple ceramic jars of pens. One was a big red blobby mug with a large F mounted to it for my last name, emanating sunbeams that I made in grade school. The nice thing about the corner was it allowed me to have a semi-private space in the living room while also being accessible to and part of the family. Mom and bro would watch TV in the same room, and I could be in the corner doing my thing, then poke my head out and watch for a while with them or see what was going on. We were together in the same room a lot. Steve would often go into the adjoining room and listen to his radio. We bonded over many things, including a mutual love of music, though he didn't seriously take up an instrument. Late one evening, in my corner, I was on the phone with a high school friend when something odd happened. Before cell phones, early cordless phones picked up a lot of other people's conversations. When lines crossed, you could sometimes hear others talking without them hearing you. My friend and I were having an intimate conversation when I heard the faint echo of a male voice whispering on the line. It didn't sound like he was talking to anyone, and I heard no one respond to him. I asked my friend if she heard it too, but she said no. I heard the voice whisper matter-of-factly, seemingly directly to me, "If you can hear this, you're dying." That was so weird. If you can hear this, you're dying. On the cross telephone lines. A little chill went up my back, like now. It didn't sound like a cross line. There was none of the usual static. It felt like someone had jumped into the phone line to plant a mysterious, spooky truth in my head. I was surprised but intrigued. A lot of my strange experiences are like this. Initially, I might be startled, but another part of me regards strangeness as perfectly normal, as if I've always been aware of and open to the existence of more. And there are reminders, and these are reminders and confirmation in retrospect. If you think about it, if you can hear this, you're dying is as true as it gets. A reminder of the brevity of life, something I was morbidly fascinated with in high school and college. It amazed me then and now to think one day I'd no longer exist. How does one conceive of it? All we've ever known is what it's like to be here, not to be silent and absent. I was still a teenage atheist at the time. Okay, there are like 3.5 more pages left in this chapter, but it is a natural break there. So I'm gonna hold off, put my marker here, and pick it up here next time so that I don't wear you out. And then we'll resume with the rest of chapter 10, get into chapter 11 and 12, and then we start getting kind of back into the psychic stuff again once I indulge my personal history a little bit more and with my family. So thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. We got some pretty fresh snowfall here in Buffalo in February 2021. So I got to fire up the snowblower now, but it's all good. It's a pretty day, and spring is coming soon. So be well, take care, see you soon.